These are my three personal pillars of management that I keep in mind as I work with my remote teams, and I've seen them echoed across remote work recommendations in the past year as teams have all been forced to evolve quickly. If you're leading a large organization with a diverse workforce, establishing trust equally across the teams is essential to your success as a manager and their success as a remote employee. I mean trust in the most basic sense. You need to trust that they will do their work to the best of their ability within the agreed upon time frame. If you had a co-located office in the past and took great care in monitoring who took a long lunch or who sneaked out at 3:30 to pick up their kids, the remote work life is likely not for you. This is not an environment where Big Bugger can thrive. There are obvious safeguards you can put in place, like regular reviews of performance and work, but ultimately trusting your employees to do the job they signed on to do will make your day as a manager much, much easier. And that trust is earned both ways. And for me, the most important part of building my employees' trust in me is with 100% transparency. When I'm onboarding a new team member, I very clearly lay out my expectations for the position, both in the immediate onboarding timeframe and long-term as they grow into the role. I'm clear about my expectations for day-to-day communication and about the level of independence and ownership I expect of them in a remote role. In addition to the onboarding guide I spoke about earlier, I provide you team members with a remote work manifesto of sorts, elaborating on the company policies and personal user manuals, adding information that would have normally been absorbed over time in person, again, by sharing a cubicle wall or overheard in the break room. None of this is documented gossip or anything salacious that I wouldn't proudly put up on a projector in front of our board of directors, but I try and elaborate in a real way on how we live those virtues and practices on a day-to-day basis, and again, to just establish clear expectations across the board from day one. What you would have called an open door policy in the past remains firm in concept, but making yourself available virtually for conversations in equal measure to the folks you aren't able to see in person is very important. For some, that may mean blocking time off on your calendar for each employee or in small groups by role. It may be as simple as changing some settings on your instant message platform. For example, in Slack, you can align it with your Google or Outlook calendar to change your status while you're in a meeting, setting a clear visual clue for anyone wishing to get instant communication back from you. The last pillar I aim for is fairness, which I'll talk about in two ways. First, remote work opportunities cannot be offered just to the more senior level team members. There are obvious differences in job functions. Perhaps you have a research and development team who needs to be on-site to handle products or samples. I'm sure some accommodations can be made long-term, for remote work if that's of interest to them and you. So through the right technology, most other roles can be, pivoted in a short period of time, as we all learned last year. The second struggle towards fairness is for those of you with remote and co-located teams. It's imperative that you try to avoid watercooler conversations with people in person where impactful decisions are being made without the remote members of the team. Removing this sort of golf course mentality of you had to be there when we were talking about it, but it was designed so that you couldn't be there. There's a delicate balance in all of this, obviously. The allure of gathering in person is to take advantage of those situations where you can spontaneously brainstorm and collaborate with your colleagues. But I can tell you from first-person experience that nothing feels worse to a remote employee than being caught up to speed later rather than being brought in as an essential decision point. This takes vigilance across the organization. If a hallway or water cooler conversation takes a turn into, more impactful organizational or project planning changes, respectfully halt that conversation until all parties can be brought on board and not just recapped later. Again, if this is modeled across the leadership team, other team members will begin to pick up on it too.